The ghost in the water. The South China Sea is often in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. We see it as a geopolitical chessboard, a map of contested borders, military maneuvers, and shipping lanes carrying trillions of dollars in global trade. It is a region of immense strategic value, but the modern world is looking at it through a very narrow lens. If you want to understand the true story of this place, you have to look deeper. You have to look beneath the waves. Hidden under millions of tons of marine sediment and the crushing weight of the Pacific lies a secret that isn't political. It's geological. For 90% of the last million years, the map of Asia looked nothing like what we see today. The islands we know as Sumatra, Java, and Borneo were once the high mountain peaks of a massive, unbroken continent. This was Sundaland. It was a world larger than Western Europe that simply vanished. The Ice Age Refuge. To find Sundaland, we have to travel back 22,000 years to the last glacial maximum. During this time, the northern hemisphere was crushed under ice sheets miles thick. Because so much of the Earth's water was locked up in these continental glaciers, the global sea level was approximately 130 meters lower than it is today. As the oceans retreated, the shallow continental shelves of Southeast Asia began to breathe. A vast landmass emerged, connecting mainland Asia to the islands of Indonesia and the Philippines. While the rest of the world was a freezing, arid tundra, Sundaland was a tropical paradise. It was warm, wet, and stable. This was the planet's ultimate refugium. While our ancestors in Europe were huddled in caves, the people of Sundaland were living in the most fertile environment on the planet. The Ghost River. The Molengraaf. Every great civilization is born on the banks of a great river. Egypt had the Nile. India had the Indus. Sundaland had the Molengraaf River. Today, this river exists only as a paleo-channel, a ghost carved into the granite and limestone of the seafloor. Using modern bathymetric mapping, geologists have found that the Molengraaf was a colossal system, larger and more powerful than the modern Amazon. It was fed by constant tropical rains and created massive floodplains perfect for early agriculture. For thousands of years, this river provided food, transportation, and stability. Because these people built with organic materials like bamboo and wood, their architecture rotted away long ago, leaving a gap in the archaeological record that we are only now beginning to fill. The first mariners and genetic echoes. Traditional history tells us civilization began in the Middle East 5,000 years ago. But genetic evidence is starting to tell a different story. DNA studies of Southeast Asian populations show a population explosion that dates back to the late Ice Age. Furthermore, the geography of Sundaland explains a massive mystery. How did humans reach Australia? Sundaland was the highway. It was the bridge that allowed early humans to travel from Africa to the Sahul, the ancient continent of Australia and New Guinea. These weren't just primitive hunters. They were likely the world's first master sailors. When the land began to sink, they took their seafaring knowledge and migrated to the highlands of India, China, and the Pacific. The Great Deluge. The end of a world. The end of Sundaland was catastrophic. Between 14,000 and 8,000 years ago, the northern ice sheets didn't just melt. They collapsed in violent bursts called meltwater pulses. The most significant, Meltwater Pulse 1A, saw sea levels rise by 20 meters in a few centuries. Entire kingdoms were erased. This was the Great Flood recorded in almost every human culture, from the Bible's Noah to Plato's Atlantis. Sundaland wasn't just a place. It was the origin of our myths. The Lost City is actually an entire continent of culture that was wiped from the physical map. A blueprint for the future. The story of Sundaland is not just a look at our past, it is a blueprint for our future. We are currently living in another era of rising sea levels. The very cities where the survivors of Sundaland settled, Jakarta, Bangkok, and Manila, are once again at the water's edge. Jakarta is currently one of the fastest sinking cities in the world, literally returning to the ocean that swallowed its ancestors. Nature does not care about our political borders. A continent that thrived for 100,000 years was destroyed in a geological blink of an eye. The South China Sea is more than a zone of conflict. It is a cemetery for a lost world. It is a reminder that the Earth is a living, changing thing, and our civilizations are only as stable as the ground beneath them. Sundaland is still there, silent and dark, waiting for us to remember its story.